Welcome to Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. We're so excited to have here with us an author that's been doing for a while, but with a new book out, and a dear friend of mine, Jessica Baehr. And I'm so excited to have her with us because so many things to talk about. First of all, Jessica, tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I'm trying to be primarily just an author. I work just part-time at this point, which is fantastic. Feeling really lucky that I get to do that as an author. My most recent book is published under the name J.S. Baehr. However, I have four previous books I'll publish under the name of Paula Jane Ferry. You have to do that when this was before I got married and my name was Jessica Smith and there was zero visibility online. So
The pen name
um
is necessary at that point.
yeah, so we did the Paula Jane Ferry. Now that I'm married with a nice, cool name and switching genres from nonfiction to fiction, it just kind of made sense that now I can, publish under J.S. Baehr going forward. So that was a terrible introduction. I'm sorry. What else was I
No,
supposed
that's
to say?
terrible about it. That's awesome. So, how
I
long
should
have you
probably
been
mention that
writing?
I've got, huh?
How long have you been writing for then?
I've been writing a long time if you count journaling. I got my first journal at 8 years old. I have filled so many journals.
Love
It
those
is my
journals.
therapist. I don't ever talk about my therapist because my therapist is my journal.
I've got a hope chest full of mine, so I understand. My therapist is
Yes.
living in there, so it's good.
Yes. But as far as like publishing, my first book was published in 2016. It was based off of a paper that I wrote in college around 2011, 2012. And that was kind of coming full circle from when I was like 10. And I told my parents, I want to be an author when I grow up. And they grew up without any kind of college background. Well, you should probably get a college degree and have some kind of steady, stable income. It'd be a nice hobby on the side. Authors don't always make a ton of money. They were worried about my well-being. I understand that. They were still, and they still are supportive. Like my parents are always the first to buy my books. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, it's been a long time, kind of a full circle moment and all of that.
I understand that one completely. That yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah. So you wrote nonfiction first. What is your nonfiction about? What was fun about that, and why the switch?
As I mentioned, my first book was kind of based off of a college paper in 2012, 2011, somewhere in there, on Tourette syndrome and how it affects communication. I had recently been diagnosed, so I do have Tourette syndrome. Took me a hot minute to get a diagnosis. I had been making noises for about 7 years at that point and not having any idea what was really going on. My professors loved it, said there's nothing like this in the field. You should really get it published. Publishing a college paper is actually kind of difficult, and I'm borderline lazy. I'm a hard worker, but I'm borderline lazy. And publishing a book, as difficult as that is still easier than trying to publish a college paper. So I decided to expand it and put it into a book. It was a little 100-page, awkwardly strong, because it kind of came out as a self-help as I expanded on this and how to use these tools that I found in communication because of awkward moments. And the second I hit publish, I never understood adrenaline junkies until that moment. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is my life now. Oh my gosh, that was the biggest rush I'd ever felt.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of continued on the same vein. Didn't really know what else to write, but I knew that I'd been through a lot of hard experiences. So then I wrote Tragically Strong. I'm a big chicken, and so went through a phase where I was trying to like conquer all my fears, and I wrote Fearfully Strong. I still go back and read those all the time myself. I feel like I might have primarily written them and published them for me, to figure out the writing and publishing process.
As well
And
as help you. I mean, if that's coming back to help you, is how many times we write and we're like, oh, that's what I needed to hear.
yeah.
Right. I love that you're going back to those still. And yeah, that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I need the reminders sometimes. I mean, who doesn't? That's what life is. But kind of circling back when I was first diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, and I did this study into this like college paper. I also really love history. I grew up on a very steady diet of Dear America books, Little House on the Prairie,
Yeah, the
loved
good stuff.
them. And so, in looking at the history of Tourette syndrome, the first recorded case was in 1825. with a doctor named Itard, and the woman was just known as M. Dampierre. She was some kind of nobility. They weren't even really sure what. They didn't know her name. It was just M. Dampierre. That's all they knew in medical journals for years. And like, she's kind of key. Like, this is the first recorded case. Like, why do we not know who she is? Why don't we have any more information? Especially considering before that, it was just kind of explained away as like bad manners or bad breeding. She's the reason they took it seriously, and it became a diagnosis. A year after her death in 1885, they'd used the studies from Dr. Itard. One of his students came up with it like 60 years later, had enough evidence to say, no, this is an actual diagnosis. This is an actual thing that we need to be paying attention to. And then in November of 2020, her name just like magically fell in my lap, and I had her full name. I had the name of Ernestine Emily Prendre de Guermont.
Oh,
And like I said, I'd always kind of been fascinated by her, wondered why we didn't have her story. And I'd kind of had in the back of my mind that I would like write that one day. And when her name fell in my lap, I'm like, she wants this story told. I had this almost like instant connection with her. There was so much that I felt like she was just dictating the story to me half the time. Here's
mm.
the problem. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that I skipped my fourth book, because my fourth book actually came out in 2021 because people kept bugging me. It's not bugging. I love these people. People were, seeing that I was publishing books, that I was writing, that I was trying to build this career, and said, hey, help me write a book, help me publish a book. And I started to do that and realized that I wasn't spending time actually writing. So I took a pause and I wrote a book on self-publishing. Here's what I did wrong. Here's how you could do it better.
Right.
Buy the book. I want to write. I'm not a book coach. I don't want to be a good book coach. There's plenty of those out there. If you want one, good for you. If you just want a book, awesome. There it is. I'm out.
Come on. Have it. There you
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that came out in 2021. And shortly after that is when I got married and moved states. And I was working a full-time job that was really draining and exhausting. And I didn't have a ton of time. So it took a hot minute. And there was definitely a learning curve trying to figure out the fiction versus the nonfiction. So this has been a 5-year labor of love trying to figure all of this out and get this book written. So I'm really proud that it's finally done. I almost don't know what to do with myself anymore.
I was gonna say, because I first met you and you just barely punished. Oh my gosh, published the self help one, because I met you at the Richard Paul Evans writing conference, and he had brought you up and you guys were talking about it, and you'd mentioned that you were writing a story, because I was sitting behind you, you're talking, we met, it was like this moment, and it was like golden moment to get to know you. It was so beautiful, and then I've been watching you just writing and doing, and your whole journey I like, how is she finding time to write? How is she doing this? And I'd be like, I want to hear the damn story.
Same.
You want to hear it too. I know. It's like we all
Right?
hear it. So I've been so excited that this last year I've been like, and it's going to get launched. It's going to launch, and all the countdowns, because I've been counting down with you. And I'm like, so excited to see this. And then I got to read the excerpt the other day you sent me, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So payday's this week, by the way. So it will be coming to me to get through the whole thing. But it's been a beautiful journey. And I want to tell me a little bit about that switch between nonfiction to fiction, because people just think you can write and it doesn't matter which genre, but there is definitely a distinct difference as someone who's written fiction and reads and writes a lot of nonfiction as far as papers and academics goes. But there's a huge difference between those two genres. And how was that for you to navigate that?
The first one, like I mentioned, it was a college paper. It was very structured. I've got references, a whole bibliography in the back. But that was, with weekly meetings with my professors, them kind of like holding my hands and walking me through this process, which definitely helped. And then because I had an outline in all these sections, I just kind of like fattened it up and expanded on it. I worried for a hot second that maybe I don't know enough, because like it's only a little 100-page book. But you know what? People with Tourette syndrome tend to have shorter attention spans because a common co-diagnosis is ADD, ADHD. So
Right.
I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. This is, you get the meat, you get enough type of a thing. So there's always kind of that fear, like, what if I don't know enough? And I don't feel like I had that with fiction because if I don't know something, I make it up. It's fiction. I can.
A little freeing that way. That's what I've found about fiction.
Right?
Is like I get to make up the story, so it doesn't matter if whatever I can create that.
The problems is I can also be kind of indecisive at times. And I'm like, I could do it this way, or I could do it this way, or I could maybe even do it this way. Like I had to pull my husband in a lot. I'm like, okay, help me talk through this and figure out which is the best option that I kind of want to go with. The thing that I like about nonfiction writing is you write an outline that becomes your table of contents. Like I copy paste have the outline as the table of contents. I copy paste it so that I can then just kind of fatten up each of these sections and just kind of brain dump is really all I did. I'm like, here's what I know about this, which is super easy because I feel like I had all these experiences, all of these, ways that I could say all of the, especially in Tragically Strong and Fearfully Strong. Like those are mostly autobiographical. Like I didn't do the references like I did with the first one because I didn't have a professor holding my hand. And it's mostly
You're
just
right.
my own experiences. Here's what I've experienced. Here's what I've seen come out of it. Which again is kind of why it's a good reminder for me. Like, oh, remember how you experienced this? You know this. You know better. But again, kind of the same thing with even the self-publishing one. I'm like, here's what I did wrong. Here's why I regret it and what I wish I had done instead. So, I mean, it's just it was so much easier. Fiction, like you have to pay attention to, well, this is kind of slow. We need a little bit more action. There's way too much going on here. You got to cut that down. There's so much more going on that you have to pay attention to. Whereas the nonfiction, especially the autobiographical stuff, is pretty straightforward. You just brain dump it out and go.
Like, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, all done.
Yeah, I was gonna say switching over to that. I found that too, because the second one has been like it's been writing itself in different and out of order, whereas my first one, it just tells itself in the story chronologically. And this one's been like, then write this part and then write this part. And I'm like, but where do you go? And I'm like, so the analytic part of my brain for the academic writing is just like, but I need to have a structure, which is so weird because I have my students outline and I outlined papers all the way through school. But when I've been writing my fiction, I can't outline. My brain does not let me outline. And it's so, yeah, it's just been totally antithetical to what I have
And I
done.
do a mix. I definitely do a mix. Like when I finally started to like, okay, I really need to get serious about this. I was really lucky. I've got a friend in California who works doing screenplays. She's kind of big
Mhm.
in that area. I told her about this story idea. We connected because she also has a child with Tourette syndrome. So that's how we knew each other. We were both writers, so we talk, we keep up type of a thing. But as I was telling her these ideas, and I think she had read like the prologue, because I think I wrote the prologue first. She's like, I could see this being a really good movie. You need to get this written, which is a good motivator. Like,
That's a great motivator.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. So that was a really big motivator. But then I had to I use these cards to kind of outline things. And then I had a first draft. And from there, you just kind of like massage it. You put stuff in, you take stuff out. I ended up writing more scenes that did not start out in my outline. So there was some plotting, there was some pantsing. I think I actually wrote a few new scenes. So I quit my full-time job working as a bank teller back in June, right? Because it just was not happening. And I really this book became the priority. Like I felt this really urgent, no, this needs to be done and it needs to be done now. This woman was getting really impatient with me, like, tell my story.
All right. Yeah.
So I quit my job in June. I was pretty much entirely focused on writing this book and working part-time and doing some family stuff. Like there's still stuff going on. I wasn't 24/7 glued to my computer, but at the same time, even that, like I wrote new scenes back in June and July, and I just published it last week in September. Like I was still writing stuff and sliding it in.
They're like, and here you go. I was gonna say visualizing, like I'm as a screenwriter and helping with that, like making those cards and putting them where they go and filling those scenes. That's a lot how I visualize and stuff like that. Is like if it's a movie and where the scenes go as a theater person. So I can understand that. Like, and here goes this scene, and here's this scene, and doing that. That makes total sense to me in that way. Did you have
Yeah.
to do a lot of research on her then? Was there a lot of research time period wise on her personally? Was there, what did this entail to tell her story without all that information? I mean, that you said that there was to begin with.
So another fun thing about Tourette syndrome, um, according to some doctors, and this is my favorite theory just because I see this is absolutely how my brain works. Some doctors will put it on the autism spectrum. I do consider myself super high functioning. Like you can't even necessarily tell that I'm really on that spectrum at all. But there are definitely times where I will just get so into my rabbit holes and research, and it's so much fun. I
Oh
love
yeah.
all of the stuff that I was able to find. As far as her, like when like I told you that name that just magically fell in my lap, it came attached with like a 9-page PDF. So I have
Oh,
about 9 pages worth of stuff that's probably where I got 90% of like what went on in her life. There were a few things, especially like over the years. It was funny how like I would occasionally just get little nuggets, almost like she was saying, "You're doing a good job, keep going." I found someone had painted a miniature portrait of hers that was for sale for like $3,000. I can't tell you how bad I wanted that little miniature, but
I
I don't.
bet. I was gonna
Oh
say.
my gosh, I'm dying. And it's off the market now, but I was able to like see a picture of her. I found out that she actually had this castle. This is her actual castle.
Oh wow.
That's why it's
Wow.
my
That's a castle.
motivation.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. That's her castle in France, which turns out is actually now run by almost like a business retreat space. So I actually at some point, probably in a couple of years, want to take a group over there so that we can like have her birthday party in her castle
Oh,
type of
that
thing.
was so cool.
I know, right? Ah. But anyways, I had contacted them. They were great. They let me go on like a virtual tour. They gave me some
Oh,
information. Like there wasn't a ton that I got from them, but I was seeing like little um I don't know, everybody's got different faiths, but according to me, like I use the term miracles. Like sometimes it's just a miracle. This castle was occupied by Nazis in World War II, and a citizen of France had done I can't remember the exact story, but they basically gone into the castle and point blank shot a Nazi officer. And so they burned every castle within a 20-mile radius. They almost burned this one, but the owners were like able to talk them out of it.
oh my heavens.
Right? Like this
Oh,
woman has had a hand in her stuff.
oh my
Like,
gosh. How
oh
incredible
yeah.
was it to see like the rooms where she lived and the hallways where she
Hmm.
walked and
Hmm.
just to see where and the fact that it could have just been gone. Oh,
Right? Oh,
yeah.
like it
Oh my
just,
gosh.
yeah.
Just
But they showed me a couple of books, which were, of course, in French. So I had to finagle some attempt at print translation, but it was basically like a history of the house, and it had been published in 1960. But it did have like 2 pages of her, but it had another picture of her when she was older. So there's a picture of her. There was a picture of her older sister. There was a picture of her mother. And I'm just like geeking out over this. Like when I first got this book in the mail and like, I'm flipping through it, I'm looking at the pages and, looking at the pictures of the different rooms throughout the castle. And then I stumble on this picture of her. I think my husband thought I had a seizure because I was so excited. I was like crying, and he's like, "What is happening right now?" I'm like, "It's her. It's her." The miniature I didn't see until like after. This was like the first time I had actually seen her face,
yeah.
and I just,
Oh,
it was such a moment.
that is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Wow, that is such an incredible story and journey. As most writers, I mean, we're making fiction about things, but to actually have a fictional piece, but be about someone that you can actually connect to and have that and to learn her story and oh my goodness, that what an incredible, I don't know, I don't even know what to call it. It's just that's just so incredible. Ah, I'm envious in some ways, right? Like, oh my goodness. I mean, I know my characters and I know they're based off of people's, but to actually like get to meet them through the journey that way, that's gotta be such a beautiful thing.
It really is. It's such a profound, and like I feel like this is actually more. So not my husband doesn't believe in life after death. I believe in life after death. And I feel like she was whispering this story to me half the time. And I feel like there's other people that want their stories told as well. And so like it's just very humbling. I feel like I'm some kind of ghostwriter without being like
Literally.
right? I'm a literal ghostwriter.
Debbie's certified.
Right. So, I mean, M was the first one. I mean, that's another fun story. Like her name is Ernestine Emily Prondra, right?
Mhm.
And for some reason, I just kept calling her M. And my mom asked me one day why. She's like, her name is Ernestine. That wouldn't have been her nickname. But as I did more research, she had a younger brother named Ernest. And it was a common practice of the time for people to go by their second names as opposed to their first. So, yeah, she probably actually very much would have been called, much more likely to have been called M than any kind of diminutive of Ernestine,
Especially with a
especially.
brother with Ernest. Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, she's very much had a hand in this, and I can't wait to see who. I have no idea who's next, but I know someone else wants their story told. I'm just trying to figure out who it
Oh, it
is.
is. Well, I can't
So,
wait to hear who it's going to become.
no, right? Like it'll be hard to follow something like this, though. I mean, this novel has just been it's so deeply personal too. I mean, as someone who also has Tourette syndrome, and she was the first recorded case, like I obviously put a lot of my experience with my Tourette syndrome in there. Like we actually do have a lot in common. You know, she definitely some things that we did not have in common. She was married at 17 because they thought it was going to cure her. And I didn't get married until like my mid to late 30s, but she never had children. I know what it's like to not have children. I don't know. There were some times where I'm just like, wow, we just really have a lot in common. So I was able to pour so much of myself into this
Mm,
book and not just making stuff up. It'll be hard to follow that because I felt such a connection being so on
into
par with that. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in my life next and what experiences that I'm going to have that will prepare me to write this next book.
yeah. I love that you
So,
bring it up that way because a lot of people go, well, how do you write? Where do you get your inspiration from? And I think it's exactly that. It's a lot of our experiences that we have prepare us for what it is we're called to write and what
yeah,
inspires us and what motive. And like, people don't realize that sometimes we have to tell a story. It's like, it's not like we're choosing and picking, like, oh, I want to write about this today. It's like, it says, no, you are going to write this story and this is what you must write. Very,
right.
this is what it has to do right now. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's where the best writing often comes from is from personal experience because then you know what it feels like emotionally, physically, what it sounds like, what it tastes like, what it smells like. You know, you can really get all of those senses in the writing that can really just put your writing on another level. And I love getting to know like the author crowd because the more that I read their books, I mean, even with Richard Paul Evans, like the more that I read his books, oh, that's his son's name, that's his agent's name. Like he just gave them their people that he knows names. Like it is my goal. I want to be one of his characters one day.
sneak me in
I
somewhere, Richard. Yep.
but like things that I've seen him experience, you know, in stories that he's told, and then seeing them be put into books because it gives it another level of connection. It makes it that much more real because it is.
Exactly. So much. Well, and that brings me to the next thing is like your message, your thing. And I'm saying a common thread so far. Uh, that you, what is your message? What is it that you like to rant about? And like, what's your passion in here? And let's lead us on that.
And it's funny because I'm just a very passionate person. I get excited about all the shiny object things because, like I said, common diagnosis, ADD, ADHD. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is so cool. And I'll go down the rabbit hole and find all of these things. Oh, but this is cool. Let's go down this rabbit hole and find all these things. But what I love is seeing how everything always kind of comes back to like some kind of core principle and aspect of myself,
Mhm.
which usually will always connect to books. For one, I tried to learn how to crochet next last year so that I had a hobby that didn't relate to books. I started crocheting bookmarks. There's a crochet on this book. Like, it's not possible for me to have something that's not connected to books, that's not connected to Tourette syndrome in some way. Like, I think those are the two biggest aspects are books and Tourette syndrome. Like that's probably 90% of it. But then there's just this passion for like, oh, fun, let's find all the new shiny things.
Researching, going down rabbit holes. And as
Mhm,
an English teacher and person who researches, but
mhm.
I'm really good at researching and hitting that rabbit hole. And my husband's like, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. 3 hours later, I'm just, info dumping everything into my brain, apparently.
Right. Some of the stuff that I found, like, and some of it doesn't necessarily relate to the book, but it was just so cool. I had to find a way to like work it in.
You're like, and if it's not for this book, it'll be for another one somewhere. I mean,
No, most of it was for I did manage to keep most of it for this book. I didn't go off on too many tangents, but like, so one example, this book takes place primarily in about 1817, because like I said, she was married at 17. And she lived 84 years. She had a long life, especially for the 1800s, right? She
Wow.
lived through 7 different forms of government. She, like, she just been through and experienced so much that I didn't want to have those jumps and gaps in my book. So I kind of went and put it all just like in a year or two. I was very vague about timelines in my book just because there was so much that was
So
like
much.
happening,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
But one of the things of note, so this is the same time period as Jane Austen, England. We know this time period where, well, France was just a little bit different. In fact, France was a lot different because they had also fairly recently gone through the French Revolution. Like her mother was 10 years old during the French Revolution. There's still a lot of that in people's experiences, in people's memories. Like that was not even 20 years before, really, just barely 20 years, 25 years before this book takes place. Fun fact, after the French Revolution, they didn't just toss out the government, they tossed out everything. Everything.
Oh
Like
my.
they went with a new calendar, which makes, trying to figure out when she was born a whole
Interesting.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, they completely tossed out the calendar. They're the first ones that went to the metric system. Like they were the only
Okay.
ones at this time on the metric system. She spent a year or two. She spent some time in Switzerland, and it wasn't Switzerland then; it was the Swiss Confederation. But they weren't on the metric system, and they had a completely different calendar. So like the gaps that would be happening with any kind of like international relations is insane. Like they started from scratch after the revolution, which I had no idea. Like no wonder they were a hot mess and had to go through 7 different forms of government during her lifetime, because no one could figure things out because they had started from nothing. Like they couldn't even agree on a calendar, much less who was going to lead and how they should.
Right. And then to get, and then they ended up back where they started. Guess what? Go
Probably for
figure.
some reason, like it kind of makes sense in a way. Like at least let's just get on the same calendar as everybody else so that there's not these issues of communication, and then we'll deal with the rest. Like they did manage to convince the rest of the world to get onto the metric system. Like go them. That's
Except for
where
the
it
United
came
States.
from.
I mean,
Except for us, yeah. But
heaven
most of
forbid.
the world.
I find that
Yeah.
very interesting that like it's the calendar that's holding us up here, people. It's just
I mean, it wasn't just that. I mean, like I said, they had no idea what was happening.
even
It
the
was absolute chaos.
even the simple things couldn't even. Yeah, it's just. Can you
Hmm.
imagine the rest? Oh heaven! And to live through all of that and to see all of that in her lifetime, what an
Hmm.
incredible journey that she must have gone on for all of that. Well,
Hmm.
what do you want people to know about Tourette then? And this idea, what's that? What's the big things people should know and understand because it is so core and fundamental to who you are in so many ways? What is it we should know?
And I feel like that's almost hard to answer because I feel like there has been so much by way of advocacy and awareness in the past few years. I mean, TikTok has been huge about that just because, the things that we experience are called ticks. And so, like TikTok, there's, a hashtag TikTok that's spelled
Uh-huh.
TikTalk, like there's, we're hearing about more comedians. There's a TV show currently called Balin Out Loud, and she's got Tourette syndrome. Like, there's been so much more awareness. I remember when I was first diagnosed, again, back in 2011, 2000, maybe even 2010. I don't know, somewhere back there. Been a minute.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would say, "Oh yeah, I've got Tourette syndrome. Have you heard of it?" And people would say, "No, what is it?" Well, let me just tell you what it is. It's a neurological disorder. There's something in my brain. There's usually a physical tic. There's usually a vocal tic. There's really only 4 qualifications in the official like diagnostics manual. the onset before age 18, physical tic, vocal tic, no rhyme, reason, or pattern to when they happen. Like, it's really simple. I don't know why it took so long to get a diagnosis, but I
Right.
mean, there are actually still doctors that don't believe Tourette syndrome is a thing, despite it being a thing since 1885. It's nothing new.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
anyways, that's a whole
Whole other
different.
thing.
Uh, but it's amazing how much, even now when I meet new people and, I'll tick and they'll, oh, what was that? We have a conversation. It was Tourette syndrome. Have you ever heard of it? Oh, yeah. And then they'll reference something. There's so much more media. They'll reference Richard Paul Evans has Tourette syndrome, but he wrote a series with the main character having Tourette syndrome, Michael Vey. There's insignificant events in the life of a cactus. The main character has no arms, but her best friend has Tourette syndrome. I'm trying to think of what show it was, but there was a comedian on like I think it was America's Got Talent. I could be wrong. Oh yeah, I know this comedian, so I've heard about it through him. So it's kind of hard almost to answer that question. Like, what should people know about it? Well, they're already learning, which is awesome. At this point, it's more just a matter of, yeah, just because one person has Tourette's, every single person is different. I've obviously been very involved in this world for a hot minute, but I met a woman in New York. She, from the time she was 25 and she was 65 at the time that I had spoken with her, had been very involved in the Tourette syndrome world. I started making noises at 17. That was like the first sign of my Tourette syndrome. I was the third person that she had met that had started in my teens, because it typically does start younger,
Denver.
but where she goes to a summer camp every year that's very involved with kids with Tourette syndrome, just so that we have a place to, be with other like-minded people, which is also kind of chaotic because then it's very easy to pick up new tics from other people. So, you might go in with one tick and come home with a totally new thing. But I mean, that's also just part of it. It's a constantly changing and evolving, even within myself. Like, I have tics that I used to do that I don't anymore. Sometimes they circle back, sometimes they don't. You met one person with Tourette syndrome, you've met one person with Tourette syndrome, because everybody's experience is going to be different. Everyone's going to have different tics. Everyone's going to have different ease of how they got diagnosed. Some doctors are like, oh, yeah, that's Tourette syndrome. And like, I went 7 years without a diagnosis. Everybody's got a different experience. And that's really all you can say is like, if you meet someone with Tourette syndrome, you meet them on their level. Some people will apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you don't like to talk about it. I love talking about my Tourette syndrome. But just because I do doesn't mean anybody else does. Some people are still embarrassed or ashamed about it. Very easy to happen considering this is, I think, one thing that I've noticed starting later in life as opposed to starting as a child. I've got a friend from my hometown who was showing signs of Tourette syndrome in kindergarten. She's also primarily physical. And so they're almost like impulsive thoughts that you can't stop in a way. I mean, that's a very broad definition. Don't take that to the bank. But these things that my friend was doing, her teachers don't do that. Don't do that. She was labeled as a bad and disruptive kid. And you carry that label with you as you age. And where I started at 17, and I feel like I was really lucky to grow into my tics, because at first I just thought they were hiccups. That's part of what took so long, is at first I just thought I had chronic hiccups, but they didn't hurt like normal hiccups. Normal hiccups, they like hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I made the noise that sounded like a hiccup, but they didn't hurt. So I wasn't concerned. And in my mind, I was 17. I could communicate, oh, sorry, excuse me, I don't know what that was. I think it was a hiccup. I wasn't a bad kid for having the hiccups. I could explain it. I could communicate on a better level, say, oh, I don't know what that is. And we move on. So it didn't get into my psyche. And I feel really lucky about that. But that's something that I want with this book and with other, like, especially with like the first book that I wrote. Like, it's not something that you have to be ashamed of. It's something that you can embrace and step into. I mean, my first book is called Awkwardly Strong. It's how you utilize those awkward moments as a tool. One of my favorite quotes from Madame, that's the name of the book, by the way, Madamn,
I love it, by the way. Yes.
she had the swearing form of Tourette's as a noblewoman. I wish I could say I came up with that title. I did not. My friend from California, the screenwriter, Andrea, came up with it. She's fantastic.
I love it. I think it's so great. Yes.
That was a squirrel. Favorite quote.
Yes.
It comes from, common misconception, especially back in the day, was that they're just possessed. There are
Mhm.
theories that in the Salem witch trials, there might have actually been at least one of them that just had Tourette syndrome. And that's why they appeared to be possessed and subsequently killed. So that's a possibility for a future book. Not quite sure. But that's something that M has also been accused of. People just think she's possessed. I went down this rabbit hole of finding contemporaries in that time period, and she was a contemporary and lived at the same time as Niccolo Paganini, who was known as the devil's violinist. And he absolutely loved that. He used that to his advantage all of the time. He was actually just very skilled. He just put a lot of work and practice into what he did, but it was unnatural at the time to be that talented.
Talented, like Mozart and all those
Mhm.
people. Yeah.
So, but he, especially given his appearance, apparently he had he was very
Yeah.
tall and thin with the long fingers. And so, oh yeah, he's totally possessed. Like
Well,
he
they have
sold
to.
his soul to the devil for his talents. But Paganini, besides being one of my favorite characters in the book, I love him. He was so much fun to write. But he says one of my favorite quotes about, you should probably just lean into the title. You could actually probably have a lot of fun leaning into this, as Paganini did. Like he was known to, reinforce that stereotype on occasion.
It is very similar to some of our contemporary artists nowadays who like in the rock world and stuff like this, who'll just lean
Mm-hmm.
into this whole idea and, become a persona and enjoy being part of it. So that's awesome.
Right.
So I love that idea of leaning in and embracing who you are. Because I don't think whether it's Tourette's or something else, everyone's got something.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're ashamed of those parts of ourselves. And I think embracing them, leaning in and like, turning them into strengths. I have so many students who are like, well, I had ADHD. And I'm like, okay, turn it into a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this have to be a disability? Right?
Right.
Why does this have to become something that limits you? How can you make it so that it helps you instead in those ways? And
Right.
I love that idea of doing that because especially when you're labeled as a kid as a bad student and misbehaved and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, that's got to be so hard. And so many kids, I think, get that
Oh yeah,
no matter what.
absolutely. I mean, even with I don't have an official diagnosis for an ADD ADHD brain, so I don't know, I don't have a diagnosis, but I know that my brain sometimes will have a short attention span. And I think that's one of the perks of having so many that passion and finding so many different hobbies. When I just can't write anymore, I will still go and do my crochet. When I can't crochet anymore, I do actually play the violin. Not much these days, but I did learn at one point. But I can, pick up my violin, or I can go dance, or I can, like whatever my brain can't handle at that moment, we'll just switch gears to the next one. If I do want to 100% be writing and I cannot write the scene, okay, we'll switch to another one. Like one of the superpowers I think with that kind of brain is that you do have the ability to
Compartmentalize
that.
that,
Thank you.
that word. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's the
have a
one.
hard time with it too sometimes. Oh, yes, I
I
have
know
to think through
the
it.
word. It's just not coming out. It was not coming out of my
It's
mouth.
not wording.
But yes, not wording. But we can just, it's so easy to switch gears, but then still know where we're at and come back to it. Like, absolutely. I'm like hyper productive all the time because, well, if I can't do this, then I'll just do this. Like,
Right?
but I'm still always busy because that scratches an itch to like that constant need to be doing things. My husband and I like to watch a lot of movies. He's a big movie buff, grew up watching movies. Blew my mind when we first got married. I'd come out of the room in the morning and he's like already watching a movie. And I'm like, no, that's an after dinner activity. What are you doing?
What did you-
It was weird.
Right?
But like I said, big movie buff. And sometimes I just cannot sit there and watch a movie. So that's another perk of crochet. I don't have to like watch what I can multitask. I can watch the screen and watch my crochet. Scratches that itch so nicely sometimes for my brain. Like this, I just need multiple things to focus on.
Right.
So,
I think your husband and mine would get along because when I met him, he's same thing. He has so many movies. He has a VHS collection that was in boxes in our dormitory when we met and moving them. And we still have almost pretty much even the VHSs, a lot of them. And then we've added
Nice.
DVDs, and now we have, but shelves and shelves. It's like, well, you've never watched this. And so he had to educate me and like get me, because we didn't watch a lot of TV or movies when I was growing up.
Right?
So I've learned a lot from him. And I think your husband and my husband will be like all in together on this movie thing.
Probably. Yeah, his first major, well, my husband in college studied acting, and he didn't graduate in that, but like he was at that level. Like he's very talented.
So he and I would be that way.
Yes, indeed.
Very cool.
We should make this happen. We should make this double date.
Oh, this has been so much fun. We've talked through most everything that I thought of for with things, but there is one other thing that I know that you do that I think is so cool with who you are and things like this too. You host reading retreats. We've heard of
Yeah.
writing retreats. We've heard of all these other retreats. Reading retreats. Where did you come up with this idea for a reading retreat? Because, dude, I'm like, yes, please.
Why haven't you come then? I've had
There's
6 of these. Why haven't you come?
money and time, and yeah, I will be one of these days, but it's like, but dude, I'm like reading
The one where we go to the castle? Are you going to come to that one?
that would be a definite yes. France has been on my list for years anyway, let alone to combine all of these things. Hello, yes.
Right. So, fun story. I actually saw it as a meme. Someone had posted something about, all I want is to get with my best friends and like rent a beach house and read and talk about books during meal times. Like, is that too much to ask? Type of a thing. I'm like, I saw this circulating the internet so many times. I'm like, well, if everybody wants it, why is nobody doing it? I'll do it. So I did, which I mean, I had my first one in 2020. So it was obviously very small. I think I actually had 2 that year. I think I did one in, no, I couldn't have done one in March. Maybe it was 2021. I thought it was 2020. I don't know. I
Yeah.
Whenever I started, I
Okay.
did one in March, I did one in September. Then I decided 2 in 1 year was kind of a lot. So I kind of just made it a yearly thing until I did like a weekend one. I did it here in Lander, and it was like just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. So I'm like, okay, if it's a weekend, I could probably still manage 2. But yeah, I usually do just one a year unless it's like, that was way too easy. Let's do another.
Because we can.
Right.
Why not? That's what I say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the point of it is that you don't want, part of the draw is that as women, we just want to relax for a hot minute because there's always so many demands on our time and on all the things. So I actually do hire someone to cook for us. You have 0 responsibilities. If you don't want to put on pants the whole time, like, maybe stay in your room because other people will have to see that too. But like, you don't have to leave the house. You can wear your pajamas the whole time if you want to. We do usually take at least one field trip that is an optional activity, but people are the very first one, they're like, hey, I saw this rock shop. Can we go to this rock shop? And I'm like, okay, let's go play with the rocks. I like rocks. Rocks are shiny. Rocks are cool.
We can go on
I like
rabbit hole of rocks. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But then from there, it kind of turned into, sometimes people will still do other things. I did some in St. George where some people like, hey, we're like down the street from Tuacahn. Can we go to Tuacahn? I'm like, absolutely. This is for you. This is your vacation. Like, I mostly provide a space for you to retreat to. And then what you do with your time once you run away is entirely up to you. What a concept. You get to choose what you want to do. Wow.
I don't have to do everything for everyone,
Right. But I mean, we're also at a reading retreat, so we also typically have to go to a bookstore. So
I can't imagine that being a thing, but who wouldn't want to? My husband doesn't let me. I'm not allowed in bookstores because I can get lost in them, and you'd never find me again.
See, and I am not the friend to turn to. I actually shared this in a story. Someone made a reel about it. Like, I am absolutely 100% not the friend that you come to like keep you in line. You want that book? You deserve that book. You buy that book, baby.
My girl. So we're good together, and our husbands can go watch a movie, and we'll go to a bookstore. I think this is going to be a beautiful friendship right there.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, this has been so incredible. And I want to let you get to dinner because I know this is, but is there a last message, something you want to tell everyone? And also, where can we find you and your newest book?
First of all, I haven't shown my book yet. So first of all, I want to
Yes.
take a minute to
Oh, yes.
appreciate how pretty this is. Oh no, except for I have to like stay in the frame. But look at how pretty this book cover is. Oh no, this is the problem with like the back.
Right. Oh, that's
Background.
so
There we go.
gorgeous. I love that, just like that window looking into things too. It's
So the paperback is a glossy cover. It makes it kind of hard to show off. My hardcovers haven't arrived yet. They're supposed to be here tomorrow. The book published on Monday, but my copies are still arriving. It's fine.
okay. It's all right.
So that is Madame by J.S. Baehr. That is Paula, my alter ego, and how I got my first pen
I'm
name.
glad she came out to join us today. I was like,
I always feel like I'm capturing a wild animal whenever I have like a recording of her on these podcasts. Yes, we got her.
she wanted to be part of the story, and I'm glad she got in. It's great.
Which makes sense. She's absolutely a diva. And
She's
she loves
so much
the
a part of the
attention.
story. She should be here. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. What were the other questions? Where can you find
where can we find you? Where can we find your books? And any last message you'd like to leave us with?
So again, where I have the two pen names, I also have two websites. So might be one of the two. They interconnect. So just you only have to remember one, but it's either Paula Jean Ferry, Ferri, because that's Paula, my alter ego, and how I first published. But now I'm publishing under JS Baehr, which is also my website, jsbaehr.com. I've got both of those domains. But on social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. I actually, because I'm labeled my book as a YA, I found a girl about the age range. She just graduated from high school this year, in 2025. And I sat her down and kind of picked her brain a little bit, which was fun. I asked her how she found new books, and she actually said Pinterest. So I'm also on Pinterest and we're experimenting with that and playing with that.
I might have to try it.
Anyways,
everything, right?
all of my handles across all of my social media is always Jess Squeaks with three S.
Okay.
JESSSQUEAKS because I squeak.
Again, leaning into it, embracing it,
Absolutely,
using it as Paganini would say. So yes, love it. Very cool. Any last message that you'd like to share with our audience?
Kind of the whole thing that we've been talking about like the whole time. I feel like it's kind of all comes down to this idea of loving yourself and accepting yourself and all of your oddities for who you are, even when you think that they're not. Well, yeah, your Tourette syndrome is cute, which is fair. I do have a really cute version of Tourette syndrome, but that doesn't mean that you don't have your own unique talents that you can work with and utilize.
Awesome. Use your talents, everyone, even if you think they're not.
Fact.
Fact. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. Everyone go and check out her new book. I think you can get it on Amazon. Am I correct?
Yep. It is on Amazon. It's anywhere books are sold. You can walk into a Barnes and Noble and say, hey, I want this book. They can find it. You can walk into an independent bookshop and they should be able to find it. It is anywhere that you can buy a book. I got you.
Gotcha. And can they order a signed copy from you on your website? Not yet. Not yet.
You can. It's a slower process.
Fair enough. So
it's a slower process, but you can order them off of my website where they will be signed. Yes.
Awesome. Some of us have them and some of us don't. And just checking in, and it's worth the wait when you get a signed one. And plus, when you buy local from an author, it actually gets more money to them. So support your authors and stuff. And anyway, any book tours plans?
I'm working on it. I've got places in Casper that I'm trying to get in contact with, a couple places here in Lander. I mean, the hard part is we're going into winter, and winter in Wyoming, they literally shut down roads where you cannot pass.
They can.
And I don't have
I'll tell you later about that.
I don't have the greatest vehicle for,
So we'll do the virtual book things. There we go.
I plan on doing like a revamp, like I'm going to do like a relaunch for Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, which is May 15th through June 15th, which by the way, I love because how perfect is that for Tourette Syndrome that it's like mid-months.
I love it. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I kind of want to do like a relaunch, and then we're moving into the summer months, and by that point I might be able to do a little bit more of a book tour instead of just kind of local-ish.
I love that idea. When you do, let me know and we will help promote and we can get together and plan some fun
Lovely.
things and stuff. That'll be so cool. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. Please check out Jessica, follow her, buy her books, and enjoy. Please like and subscribe and share. And we'll talk to you guys later.